Right, so today we are going to do a quick career day where we are going to do some Q&As, and we have special guests, which is myself, and then Taylor, and then Jasmine will be joining shortly. And then we also have Enrique from Career Services. So today we have an external guest. So then all your questions, you have to save them up because we would be ready to answer them. And for those that have already submitted your BELT exam, congratulations. For those that have not, I think we have about just a few people, like less than 5, that are still almost at the finishing line. And all I will say is keep on doing what you're doing. You are almost at the finishing line. So we are waiting for you to celebrate with you next week, right? So, and then besides that, for anyone that has assignments, because you guys have submitted assignments and some of you have needs review and all of that in your assignments, go back to check on these assignments and then get them done. If you don't do them, that means you may not reach your 80% that is needed to graduate. So go back, check the assignments, check if you have any ones that needs review, redo them, and then let us know if you've resubmitted, and then we would assess it. All right, if you don't, you can't graduate. Assignments are very important. So I know you all focused on the BELT exam, but if you still have some remaining, don't assume that because I sent you the email that you passed the BELT exam, it means you can ignore the assignments. You would not graduate, all right? The email was just to say that you've passed the exam, not to say that you are graduating. So do well to finish that up. So moving into the schedule for today, we are going to be looking at a few interview tips, and then we will get some information from Taylor. If Jasmine is here, she would also give us some information. And then you could, whenever you have a question, make sure to put it in the Q&A section of the chat, because that is easy to track than regular chat information. And then we also have Enrique here from Career Services. He's our Career Service Manager. So if you have any other questions regarding that, I know some of you may know if you have had a chance to schedule a meeting with him because of the whole boot camp is a bit fast-paced, so you have him here. If you have any questions regarding all of that, you can throw it at him and he'll be able to help. So let's start. All right. So first of all, I'm just going to go through some interview basics. And one thing that I'm going to say is always do extensive research on the company. The same way we've told you all to gather information about a target, right? Because you find a machine or you find a network, you gather information. The same way, if you are to interview with the company, make sure that you do some extensive research on the company. Review every page on their website, do some Google search on the company and any employees. Do not do Google Docking where you put in sites and all of that. No, don't do that to the company, all right? Just do the regular things that normal people like all of us do, right? Where you just Google it, check out the information on their pages, and then you're good. Also learn about their products or services, right? Whatever they are doing, if they make, let's say, candies, make sure you learn about it so that while you are talking, you can always refer to the products in terms of security and how they can better protect it. Also, while you are researching, you could uncover red flags about the company itself, so be vigilant, because red flags also exist in organizations. So you don't just look at the salary you may be earning when you get a job. You should also look at some red flags so that you don't end up in a situation that you would regret, because in the end, you've gone through maybe 3 rounds of interviews, got into the organization, but then you realize that the culture, you are not a proper culture fit for the organization, then you would want to leave. So always make sure you look out for these red flags, whether on social media, whether on their websites. That would really help. And if you have an interview, make sure you arrive, 15, 20, 30 minutes early, because you never know what could come up. You never know what natural hindrances could come up in terms of it could rain, the roads could be blocked, there could be construction going on. You never know what could happen. So always go 15, 20 minutes early. And that is their first impression about you. If you have an interview and then no one knows, if you have an interview and then it's supposed to start at 9 and then you get at 8:59, maybe whoever is interviewing you is already monitoring or is already in the room. You get at 8:59 and they see you. I mean, if you're on time, it means you're late. So always make sure that you are ahead of time. You come before time, 15, 20 minutes early. It always creates that good impression that this person takes everything serious. They are punctual and they would never joke with the job they're about to have. Also, write down the names of the people that are interviewing you. Whoever is interviewing you, make sure you write down their names. So sometimes you may have a meeting invite and their names will be there. Make sure you keep that in mind. If you meet them and you meet them at the interview room, also make sure that you have those information in mind. If it's a virtual meeting, hopefully you find all of that in the meeting invite. Always keep this information, because when you are communicating with them, or when you are done with the interview and you want to probably reach out to tell them or thank them for the interview and to follow up with the interview, you may need to know their names to properly communicate with them. All right. Also keep in mind that whenever you are interviewing with a company, in as much as they are interviewing you, it's a conversation. Interviews are conversation. So whilst they are asking you questions, know that you also have to ask them questions. And that is why after every interview, most interviewers are going to ask you, do you have any questions for us? Never in your life should you say no. Always ask them some questions, because you are trying to leave a lasting impression on them. And so your questions would actually reflect on them that, oh, this person was so interested in the organization that they had questions for us. So always make sure you ask questions. And some of those questions could be, how long have you worked for the company and what is your favorite aspect of your tenure? This is you asking the interviewer how they enjoy their job. Based on what you say, you could find some red flags or you could find some green flags. It's all up to you and what you are looking out for. And also, if you ask them about the company culture, that would also tell you if you are a good fit for the organization or not. I've had interviews where I asked them, what is it like for someone in this role, or what is a typical day like for someone in the role? So then they'll probably tell me what happens on the whole shift, that, okay, you have stand up at this point, you have meeting with your team, you have to teach a class. That gives you an idea of what the job will be like. So sometimes asking these questions gives you more information that maybe you may not have found during your research stage. And then also, it also makes you analyze whoever you are about to work with. And based on the picture here, sometimes when people are asked to talk about themselves, they would be like, hey, I'd rather not, because they need a job, because they know that their whole life is full of red flags, so they'd rather not speak. But know that that is not the time for you to be quiet. That is the time for you to express yourself. Ask simple questions about the organization, because you've already done your research. So you could be asking questions along your research, and that could leave a lasting impression. So sometimes we will do the sample interview question probably in the end. So let's move on to the next. Now, in terms of our IT careers, there is one thing that we should know, that getting into an IT career can be a challenging task. But then these are some essential tips that you may need to know. Now, in IT, you should always develop your skills, because it's a constantly evolving field. So it's essential to keep up with the latest trends and technologies. The fact that you are done with the bootcamp does not mean that you just give up everything and then assume that, hey, I'm done, I've learned everything there is to learn in cybersecurity. No. As it stands, I'm looking forward to do another certification, even though I'm the instructor. So learning is a never-ending process. So you don't give up, or don't think that, okay, I went through so much in this bootcamp, so I want to relax. It's fine to relax. It's fine to give your brain that time to recover, but you don't assume that you are done. You always have to look forward to what is ahead of you, which is, I'm done with the bootcamp. I've relaxed a bit. I've rested my mental health. I'm good. Then you move on to the next. What other skill will I need? Okay, I did forensics. How do I learn more about forensics? Are there resources available on the internet? Are there places I could go to learn more about forensics, right? The bootcamp has taken you through so much, a lot of in-depth stuff and all of that, but there is always more room for improvement. So that is where develop your skills comes in. And then also build a portfolio. So with building a portfolio, it's all about how do you showcase your skills, right? If you tell me that you know how to do buffer overflow, what shows? Are you going to demo buffer overflow to me? Absolutely not, because that's going to take you it took me like 2 hours, except Jasmine that did it in record time. So it's all about having that track record of projects you've already done. If it's buffer overflow, you probably documented it. Some people would prefer to even do a video recording of them doing a particular assignment. All of that qualifies as your portfolio. Some people would want to write about their findings. I think there was one student, he was named David. He was learning a particular tool, and he was doing a write-up on the tool, and he posted it on LinkedIn. And I was blown away because he went so deep. I'm not saying that's what you should do, but then that also counts as a portfolio, because he's probably telling you that I've learned this, and this is the information I found. So with this, at any point in time, you never know who is watching. You never know who may ask you, oh, so what have you done? And then you pull up your portfolio, show them what you've done, show them what skills you currently possess. Because with that, you don't need to tell people what you've done. You just need to give them a link to your portfolio, and then that's it. Also, you need to get certified. Lucky for us, after the bootcamp, we have 2 certifications to do: Security Plus, CISA Plus. And employers are always looking out for some of these things. They are trying to, sometimes they use these things just to separate or sort of sieve out applications. So if you have these certifications, it sort of puts you in the top category of those that will be assessed for the next round of the interview process. So always, besides what we are giving you, Security Plus is very important. CISA Plus is also important. There's a reason why we are giving you these 2, because these are the foundations. These are very essential. We gave you one for foundation. CISA Plus takes you a step further. If you're done and you feel like the other ones you want to go after, you should always go after them, because certifications are a validation of your skills. They sort of validate you. Without the certifications, you may still have the skill, but sometimes they validate the skill that you currently have. So always know that. Don't finish the bootcamp and then ignore the vouchers you've received. Make sure you make it a point to clear this off your list. Get certified. It's very important. All right. We're almost at the end. So other career tips is that you should always network. Networking is very important. And I don't mean network plus, networking, which has to do with communicating with people, right? So you should attend tech events, meetups, join online communities and forums. There are lots of cybersecurity Discord channels that are available. You never know where your next employer could be. You never know where your next coworker could be. So always make sure that you network with people. If you go for a conference or you go for a program and you meet someone in the IT space, introduce yourself, get to know them, tell them about what you do and what you've currently done and what you are looking forward to. Because sometimes, I had a friend that is applying for jobs recently, and then he came up to me and he's like, sometimes when he applies for the jobs, then the rejection, I'm not trying to spell doomsday. I'm just saying that he was just giving an example that he applied for the job at, let's say, 8:59, and then the rejection email came at 9 o'clock, right? Meaning that it's automated. Sometimes because maybe there are so many applications for that particular job and they are no longer accepting applications. So then he received that. But then this same person went for programs, met people and communicated with them, told them about what he wanted to do and what he was looking out for. And when one of them had an opening in the organization, they just contacted him like, oh, I talked to you last time. You said you were looking out for this. Are you still interested? So sometimes what a regular application cannot do, networking can actually do it for you. So take networking very seriously. No matter how shy or timid you are, make it a point to, if you find that there are meetups, tech meetups, cybersecurity meetups, communities available, make sure you join, make sure you're vocal, make sure you communicate, and you never know where your next link up is going to be. Also gain experiences. Internships are important, part-time jobs are important, volunteer works are very important, because sometimes maybe you may be applying for jobs, but in that space where you are waiting to get an interview, within that period where you are waiting to get employed, you are still at home. Now that is an avenue for you to look out for internships that are available in and around your area. It doesn't have to be cybersecurity internships. It doesn't have to be cybersecurity jobs. It could be just regular IT jobs, maybe support. Most people want to go through tech support before they get, because some people just want to have a foot in the door before maybe later they find their way to communicate with people, to network with people in the organization so that they could pivot into the cybersecurity roles. Or we all have different parts of how our careers are going to start. So do not underestimate the power of these internships, part-time jobs, and volunteer work. It's all a way to get hands-on experience in the field. Also keep learning. Since IT is a constantly evolving field, make sure that you don't stop learning. Attend conferences, take courses, stay up to date with the latest trends and technologies. And then finally, be adaptable. The IT field is constantly changing. You don't learn about buffer overflow and assume that you are done. The fact that I keep mentioning buffer overflow because it's the greatest thing we've done, right? So you don't just learn it once and then give up. Maybe there might be a new way with which buffer overflow could be exploited. You have to probably learn about it. If you find out that there's an exploit that has been introduced that maybe Microsoft is trying to patch and people are posting about it on social media. Do your own research, trying to find out more about these things, and then try to see if you could duplicate or replicate that particular thing. You may go to an interview and probably talking about that new exploit you tried to replicate could be your way into the organization. So never underestimate being adaptable to the current changes of the industry and what is happening. So that is an overview of the slides that we have for today. So at this point, I'm going to call on Enrique to introduce himself and then give him the floor to you.
Hey everybody, appreciate everybody being out here. So I'm Enrique Arvayo. I'm actually the program manager for the career service cybersecurity end. And I just came in on as far as for overseeing this the cybersecurity. So first and foremost, I dropped my my information in the chat. Each one of you should be grabbing time on my Calendly link and scheduling time with me to go over next steps. Okay. So one of those things that we want to go over and really dig into is when we talk about the job market, we talk about attacking the gap, and we talk about making ourselves very identifiable and relatable. It really starts first with that resume. We want to be able to build and ensure that that resume has a very structured path, organization, style, has the right type of content, projects and portfolio is positioned correctly, and in order to basically help create your digital footprint. And that digital footprint would be in the way of LinkedIn and featuring content in other areas of platforms to really showcase your skills. So believe it or not, LinkedIn is not for professional networking. That's the secondary. The primary is for personal marketability and how are you marketing yourself? How are you marketing your skills? You as a new cyber technologist, in order to identify and grab the right type of attention from the right type of audience with the right type of views for someone to say, hey, gain curiosity about who you are and want to know more about you. Okay. From there, it's building out the network and the chains of those things. So one of the things that I try to tell individuals is that first, a little bit about my background myself. I've been in online program management and technology for over 17 years, from cloud computing, cloud security, risk assessment, as well as enterprise networking. So I've had everything from my A+, my Net+, my CCNA, my CEH. So the things working with me as you come into the career service program, I'm going to really help narrow things down and getting very, very specific and centric to where they need to be positioned in order to meet the right type of audience. So one of the things is that I hope everybody can still see me, correct?
Yep.
Right. Okay. One of the things that I wanted to quickly go over is that when we talk about the resume and things of that document, remember your resume is your first impression, but we also want to make sure it meets the right type of format. So it's manipulating the ATS systems, which are the applicant tracking systems. So that last example that was mentioned, hey, somebody applied at 8:59, it got rejected at 9 p.m. It could have been because the ATS didn't like the format of the resume, and it spit it out that quick. So columns, blocks, and things that are, that look really pretty on the, from that face value, we want to get rid of that stuff. So those are the things we're going to kind of go over in the one-on-one as you schedule an appointment with me, so we can dive deeper into this and we can restructure things out. But some key points to remember about a resume is that, relevant skills and certifications, how are you highlighting those cybersecurity skills and where you position them, your education, your work experience, how does it identify with the job position at hand, your projects and contributions. If you worked on those things, what were your responsibilities in those roles? Okay. What emphasizing contributions did you have? That you can document and that we can demonstrate on that resume. Do you have any security clearances? What industry knowledge and awareness, that can you mention about, yourself? as far as technical proficiencies, soft skills, achievements, and any professional memberships. So there's a lot of things, as we roll through this, and but it leads us all the way up to that interview and that interview preparation. I tell students that have worked with me in the past that is your resume will become your security blanket. When you get the question from a technical manager or from a hiring team of, hey, tell me about how many years experience do you have working with, with IP map protocol systems? Well, as a brand new technologist, it's easy to sit there and say, well, I don't really have any experience, but you do. And the rebuttal to that would be, my experience within map protocol systems would be related to these projects that I have here. And that's where you start diving into your projects and you go into piece by piece what you did, how you leveraged technology, how you positioned it, what you were testing, what you were penetrating, and what was the outcome of achieved success that was derived. Okay. Mentioned before, yes, research the organization. I can't tell you how many times I myself would be interviewing someone for a particular technology position in, a different part of my life. And one of the first questions I would ask is, tell me about, tell me about something about the organization, that who we are. And to have somebody on the other end have a completely blank stare. So attention to detail. Research who the organization is, look up their mission statement, what philanthropy, what activisms they have, as far as what's their knowledge and product that they're working on. Review the job description, okay? Understand what the requirements are and how your skills identify with those job requirements. Understand cybersecurity fundamentals, okay? Continuously brush up on the foundational competencies that you have learned here and be familiar with industry standard type of frameworks, okay? Stay up to date on cybersecurity protocol. It's rapidly evolving and continuously changing, okay? Prepare some common interview questions. Showcase, and tell about what your achievements have been related to your skills based on the projects that you've done, and demonstrate problem solving abilities and capabilities. Hireability comes down to two things, everyone, which is, can you get the job done? And do you have the potential? You don't have to know every single technology out there, but the ones that you list on your resume, you better know how to talk about them, and you better know how to discuss those things from an analytical point and from a problem-solving type of disposition. Okay, so develop, a professional online presence. For some of you who have LinkedIn, great. For those of you who don't, those are some of the things that I want to work with you to build out what that online presence looks like. What is your digital footprint mirror, and what is it really showcasing? Okay. And then lastly, we mentioned before, hey, ask those questions. Some of those fielding questions that I tell students to ask when somebody says, hey, do you have any other questions for us? Some great questions, and two great questions I always tell students to ask is, hey, if there's one skill that I could be working on right now that would benefit this team, what would it be? And two, if you could give me my 30, 60, 90, and 100-day 20 roadmap, what would that look like? And what is that measure of success or milestones? What do they look like? In a year from today, where would you like me to be, and how far, and where would you, and what would you like me to learn? So engaging questions like that are going to really, really tell as far as that you've done some research, that you're passionate, and that you have the potential to do more with those things. So, with that being said, you did the hardest step, which is you you balanced things going on in personal life, going back into, a program and learning a whole new discipline. And you're coming up to that wave of entering and preparing for the certifications, which are your introductory certifications they're going to be, they're very vital to kind of working yourself into the cyber world. They're nationally recognized. So please schedule time with me and grab some time on my calendar so we can go into a more detailed plan and map out a more definitive roadmap as you move out of this program. Okay. So and I apologize for kind of all the mix up with a lot of this stuff. I've worked with Matthew and and so to get these going. So I know a lot of you have been working with Emily in the past, and then she left and there was kind of this gap. But I want to let each one of you know is that, I'm here to help. I'm definitely your guy. Let's get going. All right. Thanks, Derek.
Yeah, that was quite in-depth. And yeah, I really appreciate that, MK. So if any of you has a question regarding anything we've talked about, any other thing regarding careers, interviews, you could put them in the Q&As, right? If you can't find the Q&As, you could put them in the chat, but it's just right beside the chat sign. And so as you bring in your questions, we'll be here to answer them. Myself, Enrique, there's Richard, there's Samuel, there's Taylor, there's Matthew, and then there's Jasmine. So that's a dream team right there. So at this point, before you bring in your questions, or while you bring your questions in the background, right, I'm going to call on any member of the instruction team, and if they want to share anything with us. So Richard, Samuel, Taylor, Jasmine, Matthew, the floor is open.
I can speak if.
All right.
Is my audio on? Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you.
There's a few things I always focus on, both as when I'm looking for a job and also when I was hiring people. And I'm not sure, I kind of stepped in a bit late, so I'm not sure what you've already heard. But let me just reinforce that research any company, please research it. And when you ask questions, because interview is a two-way activity. All right. I used to tell candidates, I have a staff of some number of people, and if we don't connect, if there's a disconnect and you get hired and you can't do what you say you can do, or you don't understand what the position is, you're going to be miserable for like 100% of your time. Now, if I've got 10 people on my staff, I may have problems for 10% of my time, but it's more important for you as a candidate to understand the position and make sure, and you do that by asking questions. One question you always want to ask, and you want to look not only for the words that the hiring manager is speaking to you, but body language. So if you're in person, it's best. But if you're on Zoom, make sure you're looking carefully at them when you ask them this question. Tell me about your organization's culture, and look for the initial reaction. All right, and that's going to be telling, because nobody's going to say this is a paranoid culture and you're going to hate to work here. They're going to tell you it's a good culture. All right, but look at how if they move forward and say, oh, you're going to, right, versus yeah, we're professional. All right, that's very important, because you're going to spend a good portion of your life in that job. All right, and you want to feel comfortable in it. So that's kind of my main advice. One, research, ask good questions, ask about culture. Those are the highlights. But I'm happy to answer questions later on if you have any.
Thank you very much, Richard. floor is still open. But then we have a question in the Q&As, which from an anonymous participant, coming from someone who does not have a technical background and trying to break into the field. How do you tackle an entry position that requires 3 to 5 years of experience in the related field? That's a good question.
So I can answer that question. So there's two things to that. Is that one is never position yourself when you read that to use that as an obstacle not apply. Let someone else define where you actually fit within that range of 3 to 5 years experience and what their definition represents of 3 to 5 years experience. You'd be quite surprised that hiring managers, technical managers have a very different viewpoint of 3 to 5 years experience than what is actually written on as far as the job description from somebody from HR. Okay, so when you see these job descriptions, the first thing to remember is that when I look at these job descriptions, the first thing I see is that, man, they're not looking for one person, looking for a department. And then they're looking for a unicorn. Well, unicorns don't exist, okay? But the key thing is to see which skills that you match with that position, apply for that position. How do you combat the 3 to 5 years experience? It goes back to your projects. It goes back to how you have demonstrated onto your resume the projects that you have positioned in the labs, whether they were vulnerability, security, defense, penetration testing. I say, in the beginning, I said this, that your resume is going to be your security blanket. When you hear the word experience, you fall back to your projects, because the projects are the live working hours that demonstrate that you do have the ability and capability to know how to maneuver the technology. Remember, I said this before, hireability comes, can you get the job done, and potential. So most individuals are looking for someone with can they get the job done, but that represents, do they have the foundational competencies of the skills that they list? Can they do it? The potential is, are they coachable? Are they trainable? Do they have a great attitude? Will they mix well with the team? Because if that's the case, then we'll get them ramped up. Okay. So, I have a lot of cool resources and things to provide when you meet with me that will show you as far as some online content and open source platforms to build out your own projects, to build home labs. Okay. And so that's a great common question, but it's an easily, what I say, trampled type of response to go back to really, curb it. So again, projects will conceal gaps in industry experience, and they will add volume to validating your technical skills. Okay.
Thank you, Enrique. I feel like that was a full-fledged answer because he covered everything. So I appreciate that. And I hope that answered your question, anonymous participant. We also have another question, and that is, what certificates should we be looking at next after Security Plus and CISA Plus? I was recommended to get Ethical Hacker and Pen Test Plus, but I was curious if there was anything else as important or more important than these two. So the question revolves around what certifications should they look at next? They heard about Ethical Hacker and then Pen Test Plus, but is there any other thing that they should be looking at? Anyone? All right. So for me, I've done Ethical Hacker by CEH and Ethical Hacker by CEH. No, CEH by EC Council, and I think it's quite popular in terms of getting through HR, but in terms of, I'm just giving a raw description of what I experienced. I feel like it has the name Ethical Hacker, but it has less practicality in terms of what you would encounter in the field, because It's mostly multiple choice questions, and I've not done the pen test plus, so I don't know what it contains. But in terms of it being quite prestigious to get through HR, Ethical Hack actually gets that done, but it's very pricey. So I'll actually look at other means that you get more value for whatever you're doing. So is there any other person that wants to tackle these questions regarding the certifications to look out?
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, as a fellow, technically a student of the game as well, I've got my Security Plus. I'm knee deep in my CYSA, and the next certification I'm looking to get is actually Network Plus. Obviously, we glaze over some things about the networking system within our program, but personally for me, just because networking and security are so intertwined, I'm going to go that route next. And that's personally what I'm doing as technically someone who's still a student, right, of all of this. So if you want to pursue other certifications, I think Pen Test Plus, I've heard a lot of good things about that as well. So yeah, thank you, everybody.
So I tell everybody, I'll tell students this, is that because what tends to happen is that students will get individuals who get lost down certifications, right? And there's some certifications that you're not qualified yet to even sit for the exams or even take, okay? And so what I tell for that specific question is what you need to take or what you need to be prepared for first begins for where you're applying, what type of industry that you want to target. And then once you get into that role is where you start building out your stack of certifications. Okay, so it starts a little bit before that. Okay, so because you can get a lot of certifications that what I would say have a lot of dots, but they don't connect anywhere. And if you don't have any of the certifications to back up the professional experience, well, you're going to be in a dead spot too. So these are some of the things that why please schedule an appointment with me so I can help map this stuff out for you. Okay, I will save you a lot of time and a lot of probably money. Okay, so and remember, these certifications that as you get into those lanes and working with a company, most companies will be through their education benefits or continuing education benefits will front the cost of those certifications for you if they're on your professional track.
Okay, so you all heard it here. Enrique is saying, please book an appointment. Like he's literally calling on you to please book an appointment. So
everybody here, all 26 I'm looking at, yes.
Yeah,
Please
we have I think 40 plus students.
or
so,
40 plus, yeah. Please.
Yeah, expect some 40 appointments in the next few days. But yeah,
Expect an appointment from me.
Yeah, please, like I said, and I can handle it all. Like I said, I mean, I've had at different points in my career, I've had a bigger portfolio of accounts that I was managing, so I can handle all you guys. So please, okay, let me help you out. Let me dig in with you.
I appreciate that. And then so for where can you book an appointment? I think Enrique posted it in the chat, but if anyone can bring that up and then post it again, that would be helpful in the chat. Then I think this is a follow-up question, which is it better to get more certifications or experience? Is it better to get more certifications or experience, keeping in mind that you don't have time to do both? I think Enrique mentioned things along that line. So
yeah, it's the having a mass amount of certifications with very little professional experience to identify where those certifications are doing and how they've been utilized is going to do you no good. So we want to get your foot in the door. We want to get you in the industry. And remember, the world of cybersecurity involves quite a number of what we would call job positions, titles. I mean, let's forensic analyst, cryptographer, security consultant, cybersecurity project manager, IT security analyst, vulnerability assessor, malware analyst, risk analyst. So identity and access management. So, those are those are just a few job titles that are in there as far as when we look at the industry. But once you get in those careers, well, then's where you figure out how you need to stack your certifications to match with that career path and that career track.
Yeah, let me follow up a little on that. As somebody who, is both hires and looks for jobs. One is, again, research. You'll see what certifications kind of percolate to the top in the positions that you're interested in. The other, just to reinforce what was just said, if I see a candidate with a lot of certifications and little experience, it's like, what are you doing? Because as the question that you said, I can't do both. Exactly. All right. And another thought on that is, when I think of my education, I have an advanced university education. Did it help me in my job? No, not really. But it helped me as a human being. So one of the things, when you look at your certification, if something is really interesting to you, then go for it, because it certainly is going to help you just for your own edification and your own professionalism. So there is that aspect. But I would be cautious, because if you have a whole list of certifications, like, what do you do? Right? Because you need to have continuing professional education for those. Is this your full-time job, doing certifications? I see a certification, you need it on your resume. You said your resume is how did you put it, Enrique? Your best friend. All right. But that gets you the interview. All right. And the certification probably gets past some gatekeeper, but certifications don't do the job for you. All right. So you really want to balance that. So kind of cherry pick. Look, like, oh, I'm interested in the position. I'm interested in this position. What certifications percolate to the top? And again, don't look at all of them, because that's a wish list. Right. One other thing, somebody who's probably spent more time hiring people looking for jobs, or I've done a lot of both. Hiring is very stressful. Right. You go into an interview and you think, oh, I'm under pressure. Well, guess what? If I'm hiring, I'm under pressure too. Right. So I'm willing to negotiate. Right. So it's a much more equal playing field than you think. All right. Go in there as a peer to who you're interviewing with. Right? Don't get cocky, but stand up for yourself and what you can contribute. All right. You're as valuable to them as you think they are to you. Right. So keep that in mind. Right. You don't get overbearing. Right. But have good presence, and that'll help you quite a bit.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Enrique. Thank you, Samuel. Appreciate all that. So I think we have a few questions, and Tilla, you can take the Q&As from here.
So next question that we have in the chat here, or in the Q&A here, is, I have an interview coming up and they have already asked me about starting salary. What's the best way to go about with negotiating a fair salary? Now, I do think it's a good idea to ask what their allocated salary range is for this position. You could also mention that, hey, I've noticed that in your area, the average range is around here and the median is somewhere in here. Do you plan on being competitive with that, and just kind of seeing where that goes?
Yeah, Taylor's right. So this is the part where I love working with students on this part. One of the key things is about where, when you come into these type of the interview processes and things coming up, there's a lot of homework you're going to have to do on your end to be prepared as a candidate coming in. So don't think that you kind of mosey on in and, hey, it's a sure shot. Okay. Do your research, do your homework about what the medium average is for that particular role, based off of, an individual with your, experience. When they ask salary, I like to position and rephrase that and say, I tell students, say, based off of, what my research is and, what the allocated amounts are, I see what the average medium is. Does that range fit your budget? So take the word salary out and put in, does that range, does that fit within your budget? I feel I qualify for X amount. Does that fit within the budget for this role? Then you'll go back and forth and negotiate from there. Michael, when is this interview? It's Monday afternoon or so Glassdoor, you can go on Glassdoor. We'll find this things. What part of the country are you in, Michael? I'm just seeing if I can maybe get with you in just before that, so I can kind of help you out. Okay, so I'm over in Seattle, so about 3 hours ahead. But I can work you Monday like morning if you like, to kind of help prep you out with some things, or even I could do tomorrow if you like. So okay, Michael, do this for me. Put your email address in the chat. I'll send you an invite, and I'll get you tomorrow. Okay, and we'll help. I'll get you prepared for this. All right, cool. See, guys, it's how easy that is. Look at this. See,
easy appointments. I can see.
Yeah. So, and this is a great example too. So this is some of the things that, as your career service manager, these are some of the things I'll be really developing, working with. So is the interview process, the tips, help you prepare for these pre-screen interviews, tools and resources. So all these things really helping to kind of, so that you have like that, a good advantage, coming into the market. And also, like Richard said, having some confidence, right? So some awareness that you have an ability to anticipate. You're not just going in flat. Okay. Oh yeah, Samuel's on here, man. We helped him out with I helped him out with his resume. See, we got it all structured out. He knows, he knows the deal. So, all right, Michael, I'll get a hold of you. Okay, brother.
Awesome. So the next question we have here is, can anyone describe their best and worst day out in the field? Did you learn anything from it? Anybody want to take that one?
Can you repeat that question?
So
Yeah.
sorry, I was just about to say, right? Obviously I work here at the Coding Dojo, and my experience in regard to that is there was a day where we just kept getting a bunch of tickets, and every single ticket I got, I just couldn't figure it out. There was 3 tickets in a row. They were all difficult problems. And, just like with any other job, you're going to run into those difficulties. And just because you don't have an answer doesn't mean you're inadequate or you don't know everything, because the reality is that we're in an ever-changing market, right? And new technologies are coming out. We're going to have to learn new things all the time, and it was a little difficult, right? I just recently been hired, and I just hit a roadblock. I just, for some reason that day, I couldn't figure it out. But I had a win or two a little bit later, and then from that point on, every other ticket was kind of easygoing, and I was able to figure out all the problems. So it just like with any other job, right? I've held management positions. You're going to have your good days. You're going to have your bad days. If you have one bad day and you want to quit after that, you got to ask yourself some hard questions. I mean, that's just simple as that. But for the most part, we're all really doing this because we want to not only better our lives, but get into something that we enjoy. Just like with any other job, you're going to have bad days, and you've just got to progress, learn from them, and keep moving on, because you will keep learning and you will keep getting better.
Absolutely. To continue to build off, Sam's points there, we have had some really difficult days. We've run into some problems that we just we couldn't solve in the moment. And you guys don't always have to be, perfect 100% of the time. You can backtrack and say, hey, you know what? I got to learn a little bit. I got to teach myself a little bit more. I got to work through this problem on my own. I'll get back to you and we'll be able to solve it. But that's where you interviewing the individuals interviewing you really comes into play as well, ensuring that they've got a great team. They're willing to teach and bring you up to speed so you can be an expert and can be a professional at the level that both you and they expect you to be.
I can tell you early on in my career, probably one of the worst was that improper documentation. So I tell my students this all the time, and develop good habits right now, documenting what you're doing. Those details will come back into play as far as if you made mistakes or, if something came about. So you want to do those things and develop those habits now, not when it's with a client and there's hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake. Okay, so in a project. So documentation.
Awesome. Any more questions here? Got a couple of things that I did want to cover as well. We talked about before interview type things. If you can, and you will have the opportunity to, ask the names of the individuals that are going to be interviewing you. Do some research on them, do a little OSINT. There's plenty of information out there. And I think it's a fantastic idea to come to the interview with, a question for each of the individuals that's kind of, just tossing out a softball for them right in their wheelhouse. So, hey, I noticed that you have spent X amount of time in this particular role. What makes you successful in this role here? What do you feel your skills are that have led to your longevity in this position? What about this role makes you excited to come into the office every day or show up to work every day and continue to work as hard as you do? Things like that, I think, are fantastic. We've talked about researching the company, but come with, a question that's tied into, I show that I did some research and I'm following it up with this question. What makes your IDS, your IPS better than those around you? Or what other services do you offer that other competitors in the market, don't offer? That kind of comes back around to how can you then bring me up to speed with all of the systems that you guys have in place and what you're doing here? Good questions for the interviewers. I already kind of went over that. And then the next thing is really networking. You don't know who knows an IT guy. Easy story that I can give here is I was dating someone at one point in time and went to the Christmas party, met her IT guy, and we ended up having a great conversation and was going back and forth, potentially looking at working with him and with that company. And, one thing always leads to another, but you just never know unless you start asking around. And then gain experiences. Look into anything. Enrique was talking about this before. Hey, do you guys have any internships that you're offering, paid or unpaid? Be, a shark, for lack of a better term, for just knowledge and gaining anything that you can really get. Maybe that tenacity that you're showing is going to lead to a position down the road. You never know. And easiest example I can give there is, throughout the entire boot camp, I was always showing up to every office hour, constantly pestering Matt. And then finally at the end of the program, I was like, hey, are you looking for, new TAs, or will there ever be a position available? I'd absolutely love to join the team. I love everyone that you have and what you do and what you guys really stand for in the industry. And I'd love to continue to add to that. Obviously, it turned out fairly well, and I'm pretty happy to be here. And then keep in mind, you just completed something that's extremely challenging. And this is something that not many people will even attempt. You guys set aside your lives for 6 months to really work and to better yourself in something that you have a passion in, because you want to continue to excel in this field. You want to continue to grow and learn and get better and better every day. So paint yourself as a lifelong learner. You might not know it all today, but you can always teach yourself, you can learn, and you can come back better tomorrow. Enrique mentioned potential before. You all have tremendous potential. You've shown it in assignment submissions and just by completing this final belt exam. It's not an easy task. I mean, look at what you did now compared to what you were able to do 6 months ago. You know, demonstrate this with anybody that's interviewing you or anyone that's interested in what have you actually learned? Well, I started from here. I learned all of this, and now I can do this. I plan on continuing to spend the rest of my life as a lifelong learner. If I don't know something today, I'm going to go home and research it and come back and know it tomorrow a little bit better.
Yeah, I just want to mimic what Taylor said. You know, every one of you should be extremely like proud of yourselves. You know, the world of cyber is such a just such a unique industry, right? So much different than I would say, you know, a software development side. Code is code, you know. But you know, within your tool belt now, you have a whole new skill set. You can speak a whole different language now, and the avenues where you can go are endless. And so be fierce out there, be proud of what you're doing, be confident in what you've learned here. Okay. When perhaps sometimes people ask me, hey, you know, what's the difference between a computer science degree versus, you know, maybe just a certificate, you know, through a boot camp? And to be very frank, what you've gained here is viable, practical, applicable, hands-on type of curriculum versus a theoretical type of positions of things. You are job ready. And you're skill-based ready to enter the market. Okay. So be confident in that. I look forward to working with each one of you and getting you a little bit just refined and sharpened up. Okay. So iron sharpens iron. Okay. We'll get you going.
Awesome. Thank you, Enrique. And thank you for all the information that you've provided this whole time. It's been fantastic. Anything else here, guys?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. You're a fun group.
Absolutely.
Here. I'm glad they pushed me over here. You know, so yeah, I'm glad they like I said. So I like it. I like it. This is a good group.
We're not as bad as they all say, huh?
Well, you know, I think they just didn't realize my background in the past. So and then they're kind of found out. They're like, hey, what we wish Enrique over there. So yeah, so yeah, I'm happy to be around with you guys, man. So wrecking crew.
We're glad to have you, man. We went through 7 months to get you here today, so we are looking forward to having you in the graduation too. Yeah. So looks like we are done with the Q&As. Are there any last minute questions? Anyone? Thank you, Taylor, for taking the Q&As. Are there any last minute questions? If there aren't, then we would be bringing this to a close. Besides that, does anyone in the instruction team want to probably add some 2 cents to everything that has gone on here? Anyone? There is a 10-second window. We're just turning to 5 seconds. It's now 2 seconds and it's out. All right, so for the rest of us, the students, I want to say congratulations again for doing well in the exam for those of you that are done. And if you have any issues, just send me a message on Slack. Within the email, the congratulations email, I also sent you a link for my the survey, right? My survey. Do well to go on there and then provide some feedback on my performances because I want to learn. If there's anything I've done well, let me know. If there's anything you think I can improve on, you also let me know that. And I would really appreciate it, right? So if there's nothing more to do and nothing more to say, then I would see you all on graduation day, next Friday, 23rd of June. You can invite your family, you can invite anyone you want. The room is big enough to accommodate everyone. So we'll surely see you there. Thank you to the instruction team and everyone that came, Taylor, Enrique, Samuel, Richard, Jasmine, Matthew, and anyone else I've forgotten to mention. I appreciate you all for being here today. I really do. And also for the students, I appreciate you all for being here today. All right, so this will be recorded, it will be posted on the Slack schedule if there's anything that you missed. And I'll post Enrique's details in Discord for anyone that wants to schedule a meeting. Have a great night, and I will see you all next Friday. Are you going to do a walkthrough on how to get a black belt? So I won't, but on the graduation day, one of the students would actually give us a quick walkthrough on what they found. So that would be the walkthrough we'll get. But if you have any extra questions regarding the black belts after you've been graded, you could always reach out to me and we could have that discussion. All right. So have a great day. Michael, I'll send you a message. All right. All right. Bye, everyone.